It was a quiet night at the Cerro Azul Space Observatory in Chile. The stars were calm, the computers were humming softly, and a young scientist named Ria Meta was alone in the control room. She had taken the night shift, as usual, checking deep space signals. It was boring work until something strange happened. On one of her screens, a signal flashed, then again and again. Ria leaned closer. "What is this?" She whispered. The signal was not a random noise. It had rhythm, a pattern. It was too clean to be natural, too regular to be an accident. She quickly called her supervisor. Within an hour, a team of scientists gathered. They passed the signal to decoding experts around the world. The signal was pulsing in groups, like ancient Morse code, but from deep space. No one had seen anything like it before. And then the message was decoded. Everyone went silent. It said, "We have watched. You are violent. You are unstable. You will be erased." The world changed in that moment. Within hours, every major government received the translation. The news leaked. Panic spread. People ran to grocery stores. Markets crashed. World leaders held emergency meetings underground. Religious leaders cried on live TV. Some called it a hoax. Others believed it was the end. The message had come from a star system far beyond human reach. It was sent by a race calling themselves the Varnic. Nothing was known about them, only that they had the technology to reach Earth's satellites. If they could do that, what else could they do? And the last line of the message was the strangest. "Be grateful. It is time. Be grateful." Why? For what? In a cold UN bunker, leaders shouted at each other. Generals demanded military action. Tech giants proposed to build defense systems. But they all knew they were not ready for a war in space. Among the chaos sat an older woman in a blue shawl. Her name was Dr. Anya Khalil. She was quiet, listening, watching, and then she stood up. "I think I understand," she said softly. The room looked at her in confusion. "They aren't just threatening us, they're testing us." That last line, "Be grateful," it's not part of the threat. It's a clue. They want to see how we react. One general laughed. "You want us to say thank you to aliens who want to destroy us?" "No," Anya replied. "I want us to show them we can grow." The room fell silent. She continued, "What if they've seen other civilizations fall? What if they're waiting for one that won't fight, won't beg, but instead responds with humility?" Most leaders rejected her idea, but one small group agreed to try. Earth had no better option. No weapons could reach the stars. No shield could block what was coming. Anya was given 1 hour to write a message. She stared at the screen for 10 minutes. Then, with a deep breath, she typed the simple words, "Thank you," and hit send. For the next 12 hours, nothing happened. No reply, no change in the sky. Then, just after midnight, something moved above Earth. The moonlight dimmed. A shadow passed over cities. Hundreds of satellites went dark. Space telescopes caught the first image. A massive ship had entered orbit. Quiet, dark, silent. It didn't fire weapons. It didn't send messages. It only hovered. People looked up, across the world. Billions stood outside, staring at the sky. Some prayed, some cried, some held hands. The ship stayed still, watching, waiting. Back in the observatory, Ria looked at the ship's outline on her screen and whispered, "They heard us." But what would they do next? No one knew, not even Anya. The world held its breath. The alien ship had arrived. It did not speak. It did not move. It simply hovered above Earth like a giant eye in the sky. From every continent, people could see it like a dark moon that wasn't there yesterday. It blocked out stars and made the air feel heavy, like a storm was coming. For the first time in human history, every country was silent at the same time. No one knew what to do. There was no sound from the ship, no signals, no weapons, just silence, and in that silence, fear grew deeper. Governments tried to act brave. Fighter jets flew near the object, but their systems failed before they got close. Satellites lost signal when aimed at it. Missiles were not even an option. They would never reach it. Military experts admitted in secret Earth was completely defenseless. But then something even stranger happened. The ship moved, not forward, not toward any city. It simply split open, slowly, like a flower blooming in reverse, and from its center, thousands of small black orbs floated out. They spread across the sky like a cloud of insects, but they didn't attack. They were quiet observers, scanning the Earth without touching anything. One orb hovered outside a school in Kenya, another near a hospital in Japan. Some stopped over busy markets, refugee camps, forests, factories, deserts, even prisons. It was like the visitors wanted to see everything, not just cities or weapons, but human life in its rawest form. And still, not a single word from them. Dr. Anya Khalil, now placed at the Global Crisis Command Center in Geneva, watched the orbs move from a wall of screens. Her face was calm, but her heart was racing. "They're not here to destroy us," she said. "Not yet. They're watching." "But why?" asked the UN official beside her. She replied, "Because maybe they want to know if we're worth saving." Meanwhile, something strange began happening around the world. Children from different countries, languages, and lives started having the same dream. A little boy in Morocco woke up crying. A girl in Argentina sketched a symbol in the sand before speaking all day in a language no one understood. A teenager in Pakistan wrote a poem in perfect Varnic syntax, though he had never even heard of the aliens. And in a small house in Canada, a child with autism stared at the sky and whispered, "They are searching for home, but they don't know what it means anymore." Parents were terrified, teachers confused, scientists baffled. But Anya understood. She remembered what she had seen in her own dreams not long ago. The glowing eyes, the endless stars, the whispers from the dark. The children were not just dreaming. They were being read. The orbs weren't just scanning buildings. They were scanning minds, and not adult minds filled with fear and noise. They were looking at children. Because children hold truth without filters. They hold empathy without pride. And the Varnic, whoever they were, seemed desperate to understand something they had lost. One specific case shocked everyone. A boy named Zayn, just 10 years old, living in a remote village in India, had drawn a detailed image of a creature with golden skin, narrow silver eyes, and long curved limbs. When intelligence officials saw the sketch, their jaws dropped. It was the exact image picked up by telescopes from the Varnic ship's window hours earlier. No one had released that image, not to the public, not even to governments. The boy had never seen it. How does he know? The analyst asked Dazier and simply said, "He came in my dream. He was lonely." Back at the command center, Anya whispered to herself, "They're not just looking for threats, they're looking for memories." The next day, the orbs began to disappear. One by one, they floated back into the ship. Like birds returning to a nest. The whole world waited again. People didn't sleep, not because of fear, but because of suspense. What would come next? Would they speak? Would they judge? Or would they destroy? But the ship didn't speak. It dimmed its lights and sat still once more, like a god watching quietly from above. And far beneath it, humanity was changing. People began helping each other more. Fights stopped, protests calmed. Even online hate slowed down. For the first time in history, the whole species was united, not by war, but by the possibility of being understood by something beyond the stars, somewhere. A young girl named Leela sat in her room and stared at the ceiling. She didn't pray. She didn't panic. She just whispered softly into the air, "If you're listening, I hope we're enough." No reply came, but for a moment, a tiny flicker of light blinked. Outside her window, the alien ship still hovered above Earth, silent, watching. Days had passed, but it had not spoken. It had not attacked. Humanity waited, holding its breath. And then, something unexpected happened. A faint signal came from Earth itself, not from space. It was an old file, buried deep inside the forgotten archives of a long-closed space agency. A junior technician named Omar Khan had been reviewing backup tapes from the cold era missions. He thought he was just checking damaged files, but as he cleaned the audio, a strange video appeared. It showed a space shuttle landing gone wrong. An emergency crash decades ago. The camera was shaky. There was fire, smoke. The astronauts were shouting. One of them, clearly injured, was dragging a small figure out of the wreck. At first glance, it looked like a child in a spacesuit. But the body was not human. Thin, pale gold skin, long limbs, oval eyes that blinked sideways. Everyone in the archive room froze. Omar showed it to his supervisor. Within hours, the footage was sent to the Global Security Council, and then to Dr. Anya Khalil. She watched it in silence, her hands trembling. In the video, the injured astronaut looked into the camera and said, "We found something. It's not from here. We're not alone anymore. The strange childlike alien was barely breathing. The astronaut cradled it, shielding it from the fire. But what no one noticed, until now, was a small scar on the alien's hand, a star-shaped birthmark, the same birthmark Anya had on her palm. She stared at her own hand. She had always wondered about that mark. As a child, she had asked her parents, but they only said, "It's special. You were born to do something great." Now she knew. She wasn't just connected to the VARNOK. She was part of them. She ran a DNA test on herself. The results confirmed it. She wasn't fully human. Her blood carried traces of alien genes, old, hidden, and unlike anything found on Earth. Her past was not just a secret. It was a missing piece of Earth's place in the galaxy. Anya called for a private meeting with the world's top scientists and security advisors. She told them everything. At first, no one believed her. They called it a coincidence, a fantasy, a mistake in the test. But then the alien ship moved. For the first time in days, a light flashed from the ship, a beam of soft blue energy that scanned Geneva, the city where Anya was staying. It didn't destroy. It didn't threaten. It simply stopped. Right above her building. The message was clear. They were not here to destroy Earth. They were here for her. Suddenly, her childhood memories returned. Strange dreams she'd had as a child, voices, visions of planets she had never seen. A song in a language no one on Earth spoke. It all made sense now. She was the child in the fire, the one the astronaut had saved, but she had no memory of being on the shuttle, no memory of being found. That's when a deeper truth was discovered. A journal from the same astronaut, stored in a sealed capsule, had been found. It was hidden inside an old mountain lab. The journal explained everything. The astronaut had been part of a secret mission to investigate a strange object found on the dark side of the moon. There, they discovered a crashed alien pod containing one single life form, a Varnic child. They brought it back to Earth in silence, under government cover. But when the shuttle crash landed, the data was lost and the child vanished. She was later adopted, raised quietly, protected without ever knowing the truth. That child was Anya. Her entire life, her passion for space, her instinct for peace, her calm in the face of global fear. It was never random. It was in her blood. She was not Earth's enemy. She was Earth's only chance. But when she tried to contact the Varnic ship, nothing happened. The ship remained silent. So, the Earth team decided to send her genetic data into space, directly toward the Varnic vessel, using a high-frequency light pulse. 5 minutes later, the ship responded. A voice came, cold, deep, ancient. "We have heard you. One of ours lives among you." But the bloodline was lost. She must answer. Anya stood on the rooftop of the building, alone, under the stars. A beam of soft white light reached down and touched her hand. She didn't run. She didn't scream. She simply whispered, "I'm ready." And the beam pulled her into the sky. The world watched, stunned, as she disappeared into the ship. And for the first time since the Varnic arrived, they spoke directly to Earth. Their voice echoed across every screen, speaker, and device. "She carries both flame and memory. She will be judged, and through her, so shall you all." The screen went black. The world had gone silent again. After the Varnic ship pulled Dr. Anya Kaliel into its beam of light, Earth watched helplessly. No one knew where she had gone. No one knew if she was alive. And no one dared to speak back to the aliens again. But high above the planet, beyond the clouds, beyond the sky, Anya floated in darkness. It wasn't cold. It wasn't warm. It felt empty. Then lights began to appear, soft, white, and slow, as if the air itself was breathing. She wasn't floating anymore. She was standing, a smooth floor beneath her, walls that changed shape as she looked at them. She was inside the Varnic ship. There were no doors, no guards, no weapons. But she wasn't alone. Across the large space stood a circle of tall, glowing beings. The Galactic High Council. Their skin shimmered like water under moonlight. Their eyes were like polished glass. Their voices echoed inside her head, not through her ears. They spoke together as one mind. "You are the one between species, born a mistake, raised in conflict. You will speak for your kind." Anya did not answer right away. Her heart was pounding. Her mind raced with fear. But something inside her remained calm. The same calm that had guided her to send Earth's first message. She stepped forward. "I don't ask for forgiveness," she said, "and I don't beg for mercy. I came to share who we are. The Varnick didn't reply, but the space around her changed. A beam of light appeared. Step into the archive, they said. She stepped forward, and suddenly, she was not in the ship anymore. She stood in the middle of a battlefield. Explosions thundered. Screams echoed. Soldiers ran through smoke. Children cried in the rubble. Anya turned in horror. Was this a memory? Yes, the Varnick voice said. Yours? It was Earth. They were showing her all the violence, all the hate, all the wars of human history, as if to say, this is why we want to erase you. But Anya did not look away. Instead, she whispered, show me more. The scene changed. Now she stood in a hospital. A nurse held an old man's hand as he passed away, smiling. A little girl gave her only food to a stray dog. A firefighter carried a child out of burning ruins. A deaf boy painted a sunrise. Anya's voice cracked. This is us too. The Varnick voice grew colder. You destroy. You love. You rebuild. You break again. Your cycle has no end. You burn your home. Yes, say thank you for the warmth. Anya looked up. Yes, she said. That's exactly who we are. We hurt. We learn. We fall. We rise. We are not perfect, but we grow. The Varnick were silent. She continued. We don't fear death because we've lived close to it. We don't hide pain because we've carried it. We don't fake love because we need it to survive. She raised her hand. I am both human and Varnick. I am what happens when the enemies create life instead of destruction. If I am possible, then peace is possible. The space around her flickered. The council members shifted. One of them, taller, older, moved closer. His voice was different, heavy. You speak of growth, but we do not feel it. You speak of thanks, but we do not understand it. So Earth sent more data from cities, villages, oceans, and mountains. Humanity broadcasted everything, not with weapons or speeches, but with moments. A man giving his last breath to save a stranger in a flood. A mother waiting 20 years for her son lost at sea and still lighting a candle every day. A prisoner teaching other inmates how to read. A dying teacher smiling at her students one last time. The Varnick watched. They saw not just actions, but emotion. They didn't understand it, not fully, but something changed. One council member, rigid and sharp, made a small movement, barely visible. He was trembling. It was the first recorded Varnick tremor in over 100,000 years. Another turned away, unable to face the screen, and the elder, the one who had moved closer to Anya, stepped down from his platform. He walked slowly to her. His eyes, cold as ice, stared into hers, and then a single drop of light fell from his eye, a tear. The Varnick had never cried until now. Why do you thank us? He asked, even when we threatened you. Anya placed her hand on her heart. Because you reminded us that we must do better. Because fear brought us closer. Because we needed to see ourselves. Through your eyes, she bowed her head. Thank you for giving us the chance to prove who we are. The Varnick Council turned to each other. No words, only silence. And deep within their ship a system awakened. An ancient file that had not been opened in ages. A file named Project Grateful Species. It was a test. Not of strength, not of intelligence, but of gratitude. An Earth, a world once on the edge of destruction, had done the unthinkable. They passed. The Earth waited. Across the globe, screens were dark, radios silent. Satellites paused mid-broadcast. For nearly an hour, no word came from the Varnick ship, and no one knew what was happening inside. But inside, deep in the glowing core of the Varnick mothership, a decision was being made, one that would change the fate of a planet. Dr. Anya Khalil stood in silence. She had spoken for her species. She had shown the Varnick not only Earth's violence, but its kindness too. She had given everything, memory, emotion, even her own tears, to help them understand. But now, it was out of her hands. The Varnick High Council gathered in a circular chamber made of light and thought. They did not use chairs or papers. They spoke through neural bonds. Ideas traveled faster than sound. Feelings were translated into energy, one by one. They cast their thoughts into the circle. Some voted yes, to let Earth live. Others voted no, to erase the human threat before it could grow. Each vote glowed as it passed. Red for no, blue for yes. The vote would end in 70 pulses of the ship's core. Just under 5 minutes, Anya stood outside the chamber, unable to enter. But she could feel the tension in the air. She whispered, "Please, see us for what we are, not what we were." Back on Earth, people held hands. Cities dimmed their lights. Families gathered under open skies. Enemies hugged. Children lit candles. No one knew what the aliens would choose, but still, they hoped. In Nairobi, a boy named Zayn, the one who had dreamed of the alien leader, looked up at the ship and said softly, "They're scared, just like us." On the ship, the vote continued. 27 red, 26 blue. Another red. Another red, then a blue. It was close, unbelievably close. The deciding vote came from the Elder of Shadows, the most ancient member of the council. He had not spoken in 800 years. He was the one who first discovered Earth's past violence. He had pushed for Earth's destruction from the beginning. Now, all eyes, human and alien, waited for him. He looked at Anya through the wall of light. Their minds connected briefly. "You are not your species," he said. "You are an exception. Then let us become the rule," she replied. His thoughts floated into the circle. His vote was red. A final pulse rang through the ship. The result, 36 to 35. One vote short. Earth had failed. The death command was approved. A red beam glowed from the heart of the ship, a pulse that echoed through space like a drumbeat of finality. Anya dropped to her knees. "No," she whispered. "No," but the decision had been made. Back on Earth, alarms blared. The Varnic War Protocol activated. 10 orbital warheads uncloaked above the northern hemisphere. Massive objects, unseen until now, began to warm up. They weren't bombs. They were planet burners, designed not just to destroy cities, but to melt crust, boil oceans, erase memory. Earth had minutes left, but just as panic rose, something strange happened. A smaller Varnic ship broke formation. It moved away from the main vessel and began transmitting signals, not toward Earth, but toward another planet, far away. At first, no one paid attention. Then analysts realized that other planet was home to a dying species, the Kalari. They had cried for help centuries ago. No one had responded. Now, this small Varnic ship was sending Earth's entire data core to them. Science, medicine, art, stories. Earth wasn't saving itself. It was saving someone else. One final message came from Earth's satellite network. "Even if we are erased, let someone else live." The Varnic High Council froze. This was not in the plan. Why would a dying species choose to help another instead of themselves? A new signal emerged. It came from every major Earth city at once. Not military, not political, but emotional. "Thank you for testing us. We're sorry we weren't better. We will be better, even if we vanish." The planet burners reached full power, but the Varnic were no longer sure. A second voice, this time from within their own system, interrupted the countdown. It was the voice of a young Varnic rebel, one who had always questioned the council. "You claim to seek logic," he said, "but logic does not ignore growth. They chose empathy over survival. That is not weakness, that is evolution." Then he said the words that shook the galaxy. "I changed my vote." The chamber glowed white. "Too late." One of the elders cried. "The vote is complete." But the rebel walked into the circle and placed his hand on the ship's core. "Then let the ship decide," he said, and the ship, the ancient mothership that had traveled for eons, responded. The core paused, recalculated. The lights dimmed. And then everything went still. The warheads deactivated. The countdown ended. The sky was quiet again. Earth had been saved, but not by power. Not by weapons. By a change of heart, from a being not human, but alien. And in that moment, the Varnic realized gratitude is not a weakness. It is a force that can stop even the greatest war. The sky was quiet again. The Varnic planet burners had gone dark. The countdown had stopped. No fire had rained down on Earth. And yet, the people did not cheer. There were no fireworks, no parades, just silence. Not the silence of fear this time. The silence of reflection. The silence of survival. And above all, the silence of choice. Because the humans had a decision to make now. They had just been seconds from extinction. The aliens had nearly erased their planet, their history, their entire species. For many, that would have been reason enough to prepare for war, to build weapons, to shout in rage, to demand justice. But Earth did something else. They sent one more message, and it read, "To the Varnic, we thank you, not because you spared us, but because you showed us who we are. We saw our flaws, we saw our courage, and we saw our future, if we choose it. This message was not sent by a government, or military, or president. It was signed by every major university, every school, every hospital, every art center, and millions of ordinary people. The message continued, we now know we are not the only ones. We were children in the galaxy, and now we wish to grow up. Together, the Varnic were stunned. They had seen planets beg. They had seen them resist. They had seen them lie, surrender, attack, but never had a planet said thank you after facing death. And Earth didn't stop their dot in the next 48 hours. Earth did something no one expected. They gave away everything. Earth scientists shared blueprints for clean water systems with 3 other dying planets. Their doctors sent medical research into the galactic net, free, unrestricted. Their artists uploaded stories, poems, songs, every language, every culture, from villages and cities, and titled the archive, This Is Us. The Varnic data collectors were confused. This is not strategic, one of them said. This is not logical, another replied. But the Elder of Shadows, the very one who had once voted to destroy Earth, said softly, no, this is human. And then, something ancient stirred deep within the Varnic ship. Beyond even the High Council's control, a system powered on. Not a weapon, not a signal, a memory. A hollow chamber in the heart of the ship began to glow. It hadn't activated in 90,000 years. Inside it was a glowing cube, filled with dust, static, and fragments of voice. It was a relic from before the Varnic became what they are now, a message from the first Varnic ancestor. The cube whispered in a soft, ancient voice, if one day we forget who we were, find the ones who remember. Find the ones who thank, even when afraid, for they are not lesser, they are home. The High Council turned to each other. They had judged Earth by its fear, its wars, its chaos, but they had not seen its resilience, its forgiveness, its strange, stubborn hope. And in that moment, the Council realized something else. The Varnic had lost their own origin. They had evolved so far, cold, logical, efficient, that they had erased their history of emotion, love, curiosity. They had forgotten how to grow, only survive. But Earth had reminded them, and that changed everything. Back on the planet, Dr. Anya had returned. The ship had brought her back gently, like a whisper. She stood on the roof of the UN building in Geneva as the sun began to rise. Below her, people gathered, not just to see her. To see each other. In India, neighbors who hadn't spoken in years sat outside and shared tea. In Brazil, street musicians played songs of hope. In Turkey, the old enemies prayed side by side. In Ukraine, children painted stars on broken walls. All across the world, one quiet truth was rising. Humanity had changed, not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. And in that change, something beautiful happened. The Varnic ship lit up like a second sun. It opened wide, not to attack, but to invite. A transmission was sent to Earth. In simple language, you were tested. You responded not with rage, but with gratitude. And in doing so, you awakened what we forgot. The path forward is not domination, it is connection. And you have earned your place in it. Anya stepped forward to the mic. She spoke not as a half-alien, not as a scientist, but as a human. We are not perfect, she said, but if you walk with us, you will see we don't need to be. We only need to grow together. The Varnic responded with a single symbol. It was not a word. It was not a code. It was a hand held open. The first shared gesture between species, a gesture of peace. And behind them, across the stars, other lights flickered, other civilizations, other watchers. The galaxy was listening. And for the first time in history, Earth was speaking. The stars were no longer silent. For the first time, Earth had spoken to the galaxy, not with pride or fear, but with gratitude, and the galaxy had heard them. Ships that had once been hidden in distant systems slowly came into view. Ancient watchers, forgotten species, lost colonies. Quiet eyes that had been observing from the dark now turned toward the blue planet called Earth. Not as a threat, but as a beacon above the Earth. The Varnic ship still glowed like a second moon, but something had changed inside it. Something deep, something old. The Council, once cold and logical, now stood in silence around the ancient memory cube. The voice of their first ancestor still echoed, the species that remembers to thank. Even at the edge of death, is the one that carries the light. The Varnic had traveled for thousands of years seeking power, order, and control. But they had lost what mattered most, their own origin. And now, because of Earth, they remembered. One of the elders stepped forward and opened a sealed panel in the core of the ship. It revealed an emblem, hidden for eons, covered in dust. It was a tree with two roots. One side glowed silver, the other golden. The elder turned to the council and said quietly, "The tree of life, we thought it was just Varnic legend. But it was real. The silver root was the Varnic bloodline. And the golden root was human. Centuries ago, long before recorded time, a group of early humans had escaped Earth during a global extinction event. Scientists, dreamers, survivors, they had launched themselves into deep space, not knowing if they would ever find a home. Some of them reached a distant world. They adapted, changed, evolved, and in time became the Varnic. The council stood speechless. Earth was not a random planet to test. Earth was home. Dr. Anya Khalil stood once again before the council, her hands steady. She wasn't just a representative of Earth. She was proof that the two roots could meet again. "I never knew why I felt different," she said. "Why I saw things others didn't. Why I dreamed of stars I'd never seen. Now I know. I carry both lights." She held up her hand. The scar, the star-shaped birthmark, glowed faintly in the ship's light. One of the elders reached out slowly and touched it. It pulsed gently, like the heartbeat of a forgotten past. And that's when the ship itself responded. Its entire outer hull shifted, revealing symbols, images, sounds, all stored deep in its ancient systems. A final message appeared in the sky above Earth. It was written in every language, from Hindi to Arabic, from Swahili to Russian, from Quechua to English. It said, "You were once our past. Now you are our future. Let the first alliance begin." All across Earth, people gasped. The ocean shimmered with the reflection of the glowing ship. Children danced in the streets. The elderly wept, not because they were afraid, but because they had lived to see the day when humanity joined something greater. In Nairobi, young Zayn looked at the sky and said to his mother, "They're not gods. They're family we forgot." And his mother, holding his hand tightly, replied, "And they came back because we remembered who we are." The Varnic invited Earth's leaders, scientists and artists aboard their ship. No weapons were required. Only curiosity and trust. Together, they began building something never seen before, a shared council, where each voice would be heard equally, not ruled, not ranked. Respected. Anya stood at the center of the round table inside the newly designed Star Bridge, a chamber made from earth wood and Varnic crystal. Behind her stood a single plaque. Carved into it were the final words of the Great Record. Gratitude was the answer. Connection was the key, and through humility, the stars opened. From there, alliances began to form. The Kalari, once dying, were saved with Earth's help. The Makarn sent healing tech to human hospitals. The Astru, a species of deep space. Singers offered songs that cured sadness. And Earth, once alone, became a home for travelers, learners, and seekers from every corner of the galaxy. But they never forgot the beginning. Every year, on the day the Varnic ship first arrived, Earth celebrated what they called the Day of Thanking. Not a victory, not a battle, but the moment when humanity chose to thank the very beings that nearly destroyed them, because that choice changed everything. In her old age, Dr. Anya often visited a quiet garden on the Star Bridge. Children from many planets would gather around her. "Is it true?" one of them asked her once, "that they almost wiped out Earth?" Anya smiled, looking up at the stars. Double quotes, "Yes, and they would have, if we had chosen fear." She paused, then added, "But instead, we chose something stronger. We chose to say, thank you." The children sat in wonder. And far above them, in the heart of the galaxy, a new star had been named, the Grateful Flame, not because it burned, but because it remembered.